Have you ever heard someone say that heart disease is just a part of getting older? Or maybe you've been told that you don't need to worry about your heart if you're not feeling any pain. Unfortunately, these are myths that have been passed down through generations. Heart disease isn't just something that happens with age, and it doesn't always come with obvious symptoms. That's why today we're going to clear up some of the most common misconceptions about heart health, especially for us seniors. The truth is, taking care of your heart at any age is vital. It's easy to believe some of the myths floating around because we've heard them so many times. Understand, the better equipped we are to protect our hearts and live long, healthy lives. So in this video, I'm going to debunk several heart health myths that many seniors still believe and share the real facts you need to know to take charge of your health. Let's start with the myth that many people still swear by. Heart disease only affects older adults who have unhealthy lifestyles. This couldn't be further from the truth. While lifestyle factors like diet, exercise, and smoking certainly play a big role in heart disease, age alone doesn't automatically guarantee that you'll develop heart problems. Genetics, family history, and even environmental factors can all contribute to heart disease. It's easy to think that because you're aging, heart problems are inevitable. But the reality is that people in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s can still maintain excellent heart health with the right lifestyle choices, regular exercise, a healthy diet, and monitoring. Things like cholesterol and blood pressure can go a long way in preventing heart disease. So don't fall into the trap of thinking that is just a normal part of getting older. Your heart deserves just as much attention now as it did when you were younger. The next myth that I want to debunk is one that I'm sure you've heard before. If you don't feel chest pain, your heart is fine. While chest pain is certainly a common symptom of heart disease, it's by no means the only one. In fact, many people with heart disease don't experience chest pain at all. Some might feel tired, short of breath, or even have swelling in their legs. These can all be subtle signs that your heart isn't working as well as it should. Take a moment and, think about how you felt in the last few months. Have you noticed that you get more winded than you used to when walking up the stairs? Or maybe you've been feeling a bit more fatigued or dizzy than usual. These can be signs of heart problems, even without chest pain. Now, it's so important not to ignore these other symptoms. If you're experiencing unusual tiredness, swelling in your ankles, or difficulty breathing during simple activities, it's time to speak to your healthcare provider. Heart disease can show up in many different ways, and you don't always need to wait for the classic chest pain to take action. Another misconception that I want to address is heart disease only affects men. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this one, and it's one of the most dangerous myths because it leads women to overlook their own heart health. The reality is, heart disease is the leading cause of death for both men and women. In fact, women tend to develop heart disease later than men, but the symptoms can often be more subtle, which means it's even more important for women to recognize the signs early. For women, heart disease might manifest as pain in the neck, back, or jaw, or even indigestion-like symptoms. These signs can be easy to dismiss, especially since we associate heart problems with the more classic symptoms that tend to affect men. But women should be just as vigilant as men about their heart health. You're a woman over 60. Don't let the myth that heart disease is only a man's problem prevent you from seeking help or taking steps to protect your heart. Now that we've addressed some of the major myths surrounding heart disease, let's move on to the next misconception that many seniors still believe. Taking medication for heart disease is enough to protect your heart. While it's true that medications like blood pressure or cholesterol-lowering drugs are important tools in managing heart disease, they're not a cure-all. In fact, relying solely on medications without making any lifestyle changes can still leave your heart at risk. The key to heart health is a combination of things. Medications, yes, but also exercise, a healthy diet, regular checkups, and stress management. It's important to follow your doctor's advice and take any prescribed medication. But also remember that these are just part of a bigger picture. If you've been prescribed medication for your heart, that's great, but don't neglect the lifestyle changes that are equally important. A heart-healthy diet, regular physical activity, and staying on top of your blood pressure are all essential to ensuring that the medications work effectively. Now that we've addressed these first few myths, it's clear that heart health isn't just about waiting for symptoms to appear or assuming that certain things are normal as we age. It's about taking proactive steps to protect your heart, whether that means staying active, eating right, or staying vigilant for any signs that something might be off. We've still got a few more myths to bust, but let's pause here. Take control of our heart health. Let's keep moving forward, and together we'll continue to break down those myths and get you on the path to better heart health. Now that we've debunked a few common myths, let's dive into some more misconceptions that often leave people confused or misinformed when it comes to heart health. One myth that I hear all the time is, if you've never had heart disease before, you're not at risk. Unfortunately, this is a dangerous misconception. Even if you've been healthy for most of your life, heart disease can still develop as you age. It's easy to think that heart disease only happens to people who already have health problems or who live unhealthy lifestyles. But the truth is, heart disease risk increases with age, regardless of how healthy you were in your younger years. Things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or even stress can slowly begin to take a toll on your heart over time. This doesn't mean you should panic, but it's important to stay on top of your heart health, even if you've never experienced any issues before. The best thing you can do is be proactive. Regular checkups with your doctor, monitoring your blood pressure, cholesterol, and weight, and staying active are all great ways to stay ahead of heart disease. It's not about waiting until you have symptoms. It's about taking small steps to prevent problems down the road. Another myth that needs to be addressed is the idea that if your family doesn't have a history of heart disease, you don't need to worry about it. Many people assume that if heart disease isn't a problem in their family, they're automatically in the clear, but that's not true. While genetics can play a role in heart disease, lifestyle factors like diet, exercise, and stress are far more important. Even if you don't have a family history of heart disease, you could still be at risk if your lifestyle isn't heart healthy. Just because heart disease hasn't run in your family doesn't mean you can throw caution to the wind. Pay attention to what you're eating, how much you're moving, and how you're managing stress. These factors can make a significant difference in whether or not you develop heart disease in the future. You might not be able to change your genes, but you certainly have control over your lifestyle choices. Now, here's a myth that I think a lot of people, especially seniors, hold on to. If you're not overweight, you don't need to worry about heart disease. While it's true that being overweight or obese is a significant risk factor for heart disease, it's important to understand that heart health isn't just about weight. Even people who are at a healthy weight can still have risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and poor circulation, all of which can contribute to heart disease. For example, you can be at a healthy weight but still have elevated cholesterol and blood pressure levels that put extra strain on your heart. That's why regular monitoring of your heart health is so important. Regardless of your weight, about more than just the numbers on the scale, it's about understanding all the factors that contribute to your heart's well-being. If you've been focusing only on your weight and neglecting other heart-related factors, it's time to widen your focus and consider all aspects of your health. Let's talk now about another myth that many people hold on to, which is heart disease is only a concern for people who smoke. While smoking is certainly a major risk factor for heart disease, it's not the only one. In fact, many people who don't smoke can still develop heart disease due to other factors such as high blood pressure, lack of physical activity, and poor diet. It's important to recognize that smoking isn't the only way heart disease can develop. If you've never smoked, you're certainly ahead of the game. But that doesn't mean you're invincible. Eating a diet high in unhealthy fats, not getting enough exercise, and not managing stress are all things that can put you at risk. Even if you've never touched a cigarette, heart disease doesn't discriminate based on smoking habits. Anyone can be affected by it if they're not taking care of their heart in other ways. Lastly, let's address one more myth. Heart disease is a man's issue, not a woman's. As I mentioned earlier, this is a huge misconception that can lead to serious consequences. Heart disease is just as much a concern for women as it is for men. In fact, heart disease is the leading cause of death in women, yet many women don't recognize the signs or symptoms because they can be different than what men experience. For example, women are more likely to experience symptoms like shortness of breath, nausea, and fatigue rather than the classic chest pain associated with heart attacks. These symptoms can often be mistaken for something less serious, like indigestion or anxiety. Women, especially as they age, need to be just as vigilant as men when it comes to heart health. Don't let the myth that heart disease is only a man's issue stop you from taking action. If you're a woman, make sure you're aware of the risk factors and signs of heart disease, and don't hesitate to reach out to your doctor if something feels off. By now, I hope it's clear that there are many myths out there about heart disease that can lead to confusion and misunderstanding. It's easy to believe these myths because they're so widespread, but the truth is, heart disease affects everyone, and the more we understand about it, the better equipped we are to prevent it. Remember, age, weight, family history, and even lifestyle can all play a role in your heart health, but they don't define your destiny. As we move into the next part, we'll continue to debunk more myths and uncover the facts that you need to take control of your heart health. Stay with me, because your heart's health is in your hands, and with the right knowledge, you can protect it for years to come. We've debunked several myths already, and now it's time to address a few more misconceptions about heart health that can leave us feeling uncertain or even misinformed. One of the most persistent myths I hear is, heart disease symptoms always happen suddenly. Many people assume that if they're going to have a heart problem, it's going to hit them out of nowhere. An intense chest pain, a sudden heart attack, or a dramatic event that will force them to pay attention. But the truth is, heart disease usually develops slowly over time, with many symptoms appearing gradually. It's important to understand that heart disease can be a silent condition for years before it becomes severe. You might not experience sudden, obvious symptoms like chest pain. Instead, you could feel gradual fatigue, experience shortness of breath, or notice swelling in your legs. These early symptoms are easy to overlook, especially if they come on slowly, but they're often the first warning signs that something isn't quite right. That's why routine checkups and staying on top of your heart health are so crucial. It's not about waiting for a crisis to happen. It's about being proactive and catching potential issues before they escalate. Another myth that's commonly believed is, once you've had a heart attack, you can't lead a normal life again. This is a dangerous myth that discourages many people from living fully after a heart event. While it's true that having a heart attack requires some lifestyle adjustments and medical care, it doesn't mean that life has to stop. In fact, many people who have had a heart attack go on to live full, active lives. It's about making the right changes and following your doctor's guidance. Post-heart attack recovery involves making changes like adopting a heart-healthy diet, getting regular exercise, and taking medications as prescribed. But with the right approach, many people see improvements in their overall health, strength, and energy levels. The key is to follow a heart-healthy lifestyle, stay committed to your treatment plan, and don't let fear of the past dictate your future. It's possible, and even common, to regain an active and fulfilling life after a heart event. So don't let this myth keep you from believing in a brighter, healthier future. Let's also address the misconception that heart disease only affects people who are inactive. While it's true that a sedentary lifestyle is a major risk factor for heart disease, being active doesn't guarantee immunity. The reality is that heart disease can still affect people who exercise regularly, especially if they aren't paying attention to other risk factors like high cholesterol, high blood pressure, or poor diet. So even if you're walking every day or hitting the gym a few times a week, it's still important to stay on top of your overall health. It's not enough to just stay active. You need to combine physical activity with good eating habits, stress management, and regular checkups to really protect your heart. Physical activity is incredibly important, but it's just one part of the heart health puzzle. By balancing exercise with other healthy habits, you'll give yourself the best chance at a long and healthy life. I've also heard this one a few times. If you're feeling fine, you don't need to worry about your cholesterol. This is one of the most dangerous myths, because cholesterol can be high for years without showing any noticeable symptoms. That's why it's so important to have your cholesterol checked regularly. High cholesterol can lead to plaque buildup in the arteries, which narrows the blood vessels and increases the risk of heart attack and stroke. Even if you feel fine, don't assume your cholesterol levels are in the clear. The only way to know for sure is through a blood test. Your doctor can help you understand your numbers and give you advice on how to lower them, if you advise on how to lower them. Necessary. Sometimes just making small dietary changes, like cutting back on unhealthy fats or increasing your intake of heart-healthy foods, can make a big difference in managing your cholesterol. Now, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. Heart disease is something we all need to be aware of, but it's also something we can control. The myths and misconceptions about heart health can cloud our understanding, but the truth is that with the right information, we can take charge of our health. No matter your age, it's never too late to make changes that will benefit your heart. Whether it's through diet, exercise, medication, or regular checkups, small steps today can lead to big changes tomorrow. I hope this video tomorrow has helped clear up some of the confusion about heart disease and has encouraged you to stay proactive about your health. Don't wait for symptoms to appear. Take charge now. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making consistent, small changes that add up over time. Thank you so much for watching. If any of these myths surprised you, or if you've had experiences with heart health that you'd like to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe for more health tips and advice. Together, let's continue to take care of our hearts and live our best lives at any age. You've got this.